Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Simplifying Network Automation with NetGrew. We have Jeremy today. Jeremy, welcome back. How
What's
have you
up?
been?
I'm good.
Hey,
Back from Cisco Live and getting ready for the next one.
super glad to have you. How was Cisco Live for you, by the way, in Amsterdam?
It was pretty good. Wasn't too busy. It was nice to actually have some time to walk around, socialize, see the demos, catch up with people, and just like learn new stuff. Actually attend some sessions rather than just running around and delivering and having meetings and things. So for me, it was a nice change to have a little bit slowed down.
Nice. And we had a chance to also record a couple of short videos, folks, if you haven't seen them, around kind of like the topic that we're going to talk about today. Is just those are very short, couple of minutes. This, we have a whole hour to go and expand and show you the Swagger API spec docs for iOS XE and what Jeremy and his team of AI agents have done for for this and story and other folks in there. But so yes, what we're gonna talk about today, Jeremy?
Swagger and
Swagger.
AI. I guess how we've used AI, how we leveraged AI, VS Code, and Anthropic's agents to, well, build this solution that we're going to demonstrate that I've been finding value in. Like as soon as we built it, pretty much the next day, I got a request from one of the sellers that asked, "Hey, I'm looking for this specific counter, this metric. I already looked for it, I couldn't find it. Can you help?" And I thought, this would be a perfect example to use this tool to actually see if this thing's going to be useful, if we can find the thing we need.
Mhm.
And sure enough, yeah, we found it. We just shared the link directly with the seller, and he was able to show his customer confidence that the counter, the metric that he's looking for, is actually there. And in this case, it was kind of a weird one. And it took me a minute to find it actually, which was he wanted to see the health of the stack ports. Right, he's using a
Okay.
Cisco 9300, using the backplane stacking, these custom stacking cables. So typically we don't instrument those, right? You just plug it in. It's a Cisco part. It's not a Ethernet cable that can have errors like we often see.
Mhm.
But yeah, regardless, they still wanted to understand and make sure that there was zero errors, no CRCs on any of the links between the switch stacks. Right. So after some searching around this tool, we actually found where you can actually go and see this.
All right. All right. So yes, I know this has been a requirement for a long time. I mean, I remember talking with people, especially web developers and developers in general. They're knee deep day in and day out in Swagger specs, and that's what they're comfortable with. So
Yeah.
when we threw Yang data models at them, right, they were like, "What is this?" Right?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, there's a friction there, specifically for developers, right? Like developers don't want to go download Yank Suite and go through this process to load the models and then try and understand them using the Explorer part. Like really, developers just want to know what the verbs are that are supported, what the
mhm.
actions are, and what's the payload that's expected, and so we can build that integration, right? So we've had a lot of requests for it. We did some work in Yang Suite over the last couple of years to facilitate Swagger from a Yang model, but it was still pretty kludgy, right? We still had to load Yang Suite. We had to load the model. We had to go through this workflow to generate the Swagger spec, which does have value, right? One of the questions that comes up with this is like, are we replacing Yang Suite, right? What's the long-term vision for Yang Suite? And like, rest assured, no change, right? We've used Yang Suite internally for a long time. We're going to continue to support it internally and externally. But we want to reduce the friction. We want to make it easier to load models and understand the capabilities of the models. Yeah.
Right. All right. So then, quite a bit of work went into this, and then, like you were saying, you were able to kind of also leverage AI to help with this. I don't know into how much detail you want to get into that, but
Yeah. I mean,
um,
yeah, I'm happy to talk about it because for me, it's changing the way that I work, right? It's changing the way that we work with network devices and the way that we work with tooling and support tooling. As a TME in technical marketing, right, our job is to like help customers adopt, right? And however we can do that, we do. Primarily, it's through tooling, right? Like specifically in the programmable or programmability and APIs. Like, it's Yang Suite, it's Ansible, it's Terraform, it's building those integrations with those tools. So leveraging AI now has dramatically changed how we work with tools, how we build tools, or how we build plugins and actually build integrations. We're really lucky here in Cisco in that we have what I've been calling a private data center or private AI cluster. It's in Microsoft Azure's data center, and it's reserved, a separate compute instance reserved just for us as an organization. It's nice because we can put confidential or highly confidential data into it. So we can put configs or passwords or IPs, things that we might hesitate to put into LLMs otherwise. But having this private instance allows us to really just go hard and do as much as our job or a lot of our job leveraging AI. So we use VS Code, or I use VS Code primarily as my IDE. I've been using some other tools, started playing with the Copilot CLI this week actually, which is pretty powerful just because I want something on my mobile where I can interact with the AI when I'm on the go. But VS Code is the primary tool. In the demo that you're going to see, it's 100% driven by VS Code. It's all built in VS Code. We use Copilot for Business as the, I guess, the model or the model interface, I guess how we actually access the models. And then through Copilot, we have the option to pick whichever LLM is available or of our choice. So we have all the frontier models. We have the GPTs. We have the Google Geminis. We have the Anthropic, the Opuses, and the Sonnets. There's probably a couple other ones in there that I haven't played around with. But for this one, I used Opus 4.5 or Sonnet 4.5. It was before the 4.6s came out. We did another similar project with Opus 4.6, and it's just way smarter. Like it's just way better. There's way less tuning. There's way less guidance. You just give it, the direction, and it kind of figures out the rest pretty good for you. So with this one, there was like quite a bit of back and forth. Like I started with the RPC models. So there's basically like 9 or 10 flavors of data models on iOS XE. And most of the time we talk about Opera, right? We talk about the Opera models because that's where all that good operational data is. But RPCs I started with because they're the simplest, right? There's the lowest number of them. They have the least amount of operations, and it's like a set and forget. You just fire an RPC, right? So we built that. It took a day, right? We converted all the Yang models. There's like 60 Yang models. We converted them into the OpenAPI Swagger format, and then we built the UI or the UX to actually visualize this and ensure that we could see value in it. So after a day or two of working with the RPCs, and we expanded that to the next set of data models, which is like the Opera, again, only gets, right? No configuration parameters, right? Just send gets. And the nice part of this is that we aligned all of the operations to the Yang data model. So if the Yang data model says, MAC address, then we pre-populate a MAC address in the example data so that you can way easier change that or populate it or know what you're going to get from it.
Okay, so then you went through all of them, right? And even config Yang data models, you got to that eventually, right? But you tested basically with the RPCs, with the Opera models first, and then it worked like within a day, right? That's incredible that within a day you were able to
see value.
Yeah.
Right, because one of the things that we wanted out of this was to like be able to exercise the API. Like it's nice to read the data models and good to understand what the payload's going to look like, but if we can actually send that payload, if we can send that and get the response back, that's really what we're going for, right? Like that's really where my job ends, is that you ask me, is this thing available, and I prove to you that it is and help you understand how you can receive that thing, right? So we started seeing that right away and still continue. And yeah, we started with the read-only operations, the RPCs and the Opera data, but then we did move to the config model. There's kind of 2 config models on XE. There's models that have config in the name or CFG in the name, which there's not too many. There's like 40 or 50, right? These are the kind of the newer features that traditionally live outside of iOS D, right? So if you're familiar with like the big monolithic blob of iOS, if you will, that's where the majority of the features are. But then there's 30 or 40 that are outside of that, like app hosting, and some of the programmability things are outside of the native config model. So we did those models first because they're the easiest, and then last we did the actual native config model. The native config model, it's one Yang model, and it has like 200 imports, 200 Yang model imports into it. So it's pretty large. So it's like 200,000 lines of code in this data model, something like that. There's like tons and tons of stuff. I'm still not completely satisfied, not completely happy that all of the operations within native is available here in this tool. The top level containers, some of the depth is, but going down to those like 10 levels deep, that stuff, I'm not there yet. I'm still conceptually trying to understand how we want to actually model that so you can find it, so it's useful, right? And like, do we actually need to go 10 levels deep, or is 3 or 4 enough? So I think the next phase of this, then you'll see some innovation around the config model, because it's the most complex part.
Okay, so that's coming up then, working on it. All right, well, let's jump on and share screen, right? And kind of show folks what we're talking about.
Yep, sounds good. So this is the main landing page here, and maybe we should just start by sharing the URL, which
Yeah.
I guess I abstracted it in here. It's cs.co/xe swagger. That's just a redirect right now within cs.co. It's going to redirect you to the github.io. GitHub.io, this is GitHub Pages feature that renders documents from your actual GitHub repository into viewable space, and that's what we see here, right? We don't actually see code; we see the rendered code in GUI format. So this all lives in GitHub. We're in the process of moving this into Cisco DevNet pages, so that you have the exact same thing, but instead of being on my personal name, it'll be under Cisco DevNet. We're also working to move this into, I guess we just call it the Docs Dev Center, the Docs website.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have our main website, which is developer.cisco.com/iosxe. We'll add one that's /docs/iosxe, I think is what it will be.
Yeah.
We've already loaded actually the 600 or 700 data models into there. It works. So we're going to be just adding the additional context and all the data into there over the next couple weeks, I think. But for now, this is what we're kind of demonstrating and showing, which again took a couple weeks to build in VS Code. As I mentioned, we started with the operational, or the RPC, and then we did the oper data, and then we added the 9 other kind of flavors of data models. So should we look into one of these
Yeah.
sets here first? All right, let's
Yes.
go to
Let's
the
start with
RPCs.
RPC.
Yeah, right, because that's kind of where this all started. So here we see at the top we have the different flavors of data models, so we can easily move to over there. We have a search in here that searches through the operations of all 60 modules that are in here. It tells us that there's 311 paths. Right, we'll see what some of the path examples are, but we do have some other metadata here to help with your journey, which is the actual Open API JSON spec, right? So you can import this into Postman or Bruno or other tools. We also have the Yang tree, right? And this is something that, again, just reducing the friction. A lot of time I find myself going into the terminal, CDing over to where I have all the Yang models downloaded from GitHub, and then I run the PyYang tree to understand, is this thing that I'm looking for actually modeled in the Yang model by looking at the tree. So if we click the tree, it tells us, if I just scroll down here, what's the hierarchy of the model, right? So we see for the AAA actions RPC, there's an input into it for a test AAA command, right? So we can kind of understand that, we're supposed to give some input that's going to run some AAA command, and then we can also augment this with the username and password, right? So this is what the data model is going to expect. In this view, we also have the actual curl command. So, we can just copy paste this, right? We'll have to modify the input a little bit here, but this is going to be the main kind of structure of the curl command. It's not so useful for the posts, for the RPCs, but for the Opera data, when you just want to do a get at the high level, then this is super useful.
Pretty much copy paste, yeah.
Copy paste, pretty much. Add your credential in there. If I go back here, I also link to our website here, just so if you're looking for any other context or information, it's there. I did seed this with the DevNet Sandbox iOS XE C9K. This is the always-on virtual switch that has the RESTCONF enabled. You do need to go get your own credential, right? So when you go to developer.cisco.com or the Sandbox website, you can reserve this instance or another instance and get a credential so you can actually go and send these payloads. This is in case you don't have your own device. If you don't have a lab or you don't have a CML or some other place where you can safely run these, then we provide you with a place where you can go and run these payloads. So let's select a different model. AAA actions, not very interesting. If I do save, do we have save in here? No. Do we have Cisco in here? No. The one I was looking for is, I don't know, the save command, which is in the RPCs. So this is the main kind of RPC data model, has like a whole bunch of options modeled in it. So this is where we have like clear, reload, do factory resets and copies and deletes and things like that. So this is where we can trigger these actions. I don't know if we want to trigger a reload, but we can say try it out, try it out, send the execute, and now it gives us the fully modeled payload that we can actually send to the device that's going to effect this change. Again, just replace the host name, add your credentials in here, and we can send this this RPC reload now. So we see that there's an option to force it, as well as a reason that we can put in here, right? So we can very easily just copy paste this, put this into a command line, and before you know it, your device is reloading. Same thing with all of these kind of other operations. And this is the other one I was looking for, Cisco IA. Not very self-explanatory, but this is where we have the save config, the revert, checkpoint, like some other network management, network management commands. Really, save config is the most common one, right? This is the one that we get asked about sometimes, which is, how do I actually use the API to save the configuration programmatically, right? So you can verbatim copy paste this one here, right? It'll call Cisco IA, it'll call save config, and you'll see on the command line, once you call this, it'll say, of course, the config's been saved to NVRAM or, whatever that message is.
What else we have in here? Wireless clients, interfaces, IETF.
Yeah.
Like 60 or so modules, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff in here, right? So these are the RPCs for triggering actions, right? But the operational data, that's really where, for telemetry anyway, for understanding, is this data point enabled or available, then often this is where we'll go to look. Is there any one feature that we want to take a look at here? CDP, one that most of us should understand here. Tells us the structure of this, that we have this, CDP neighbor details container. We can look even more details at just a specific device ID or the neighbor ID. If we do a get against this, it should tell us that the data that we're going to get is going to be modeled looking like this, where you have the OUI, have all the protocols and all the power availability, and all the stuff you see from show CDP detail is modeled in here. So, quite a lot of information.
Interfaces, that's a popular one. Can we get like interface metrics, right? Like your packets in, out, errors. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the most common one, right? Pretty much every customer looks to use interfaces Opera, because that's the show interfaces, stats and counters, errors, etc. Right. So if we look at the top level interfaces container, we see that again, all the data that we expect is our discontinuity time, when the thing reset, and then all the counters in and out, all the speeds and feeds, kbps, pps, whole bunch of other stuff, whole bunch more stuff for QoS, right? Like, there's tons of stuff modeled in here, right? And if we actually go look at the Yang tree, you'll see that it's significantly larger than the AAA. one that we were looking at earlier, right? There's all the stats in here per interface, right? Anything about QoS or diffserv, a lot about QoS apparently.
Ooh, a lot about
Right,
QoS, yeah.
right. So again, the data model is very rich, right? Anything that's modeled in here, we're gonna be able to see it. Most of the time, we don't have QoS, we don't have .1x, we don't have all of these features enabled. But if you do, then yeah, of course you're gonna get that modeled out from the API.
Nice. So basically, you get the API endpoint, which explains, right? You do a RESTCONF call to that API endpoint
Hmm.
with that curl command, and then you get all that data. You even have a sample output that you're showing here, Jeremy, right? So it's pretty much self-explanatory.
Yeah, that's the idea, is that we can go easily find the API
Hmm.
endpoints and understand the data that they're gonna give us back. If we go back here to the kind of the main landing page, yes, you have your kind of 9 module categories, but we also added like a universal search in here. So, if you want to look for save, for example, right, it's going to tell us all the places where we see the save command, right? We see it in rescue config, we see it in Cisco IA, that's where we were looking at it for the save config. We see it in some MIB, some open config, we see it, this word modeled in some other places as well. So it helps us find the thing that we actually need to find. And that's one of the biggest problems with Yang Suite, is that Yang Suite has an individual model view, right? It looks at one model at a time, or multiple models if you load those. It typically doesn't work against the entire module repository or the set of 600 or 500 or however many data models there are. And that's why we wanted to add this search, so that when you don't know which model to go through, then this will help point you in that right direction.
Gotcha.
There's some other features that we put in here, just some links to our website, to Yang catalog, just other places where you can find information. The actual source files, right? So you can go to GitHub and read those if you don't want to get them from your device. We give you the guide for RESTCONF, and a couple other resources in here. But what's kind of more useful, I think, is the downloads and the tools. Now, during Cisco Live, I met with some peers. Palmer in learning and certification team. He does lots of enablement with REST APIs, across Cisco. Uses a lot of Postman or Bruno for teaching these things. And I showed him this, and he said, this is all great, but I don't use the web browser to understand APIs. I use Postman or Bruno, right? So how can you connect this, or how can you integrate all this great work you've done here into the tooling that I actually use? So we had our team of software engineers, or the AI agents, go and create the collections, right? All the collections that can be imported into Postman. Let's see, if I click this, I think it's just going to download. Yeah, it just downloads the spec. I'm just going to cancel that out. Once you download it, you can import it into Postman, and now you can easily send all those APIs through that tool. We also have the individual specs, right? So this is going to download all 25,000. But if you only want to work with config or opper or open config or etc., then you can just download that one individual spec and then work with that flavor of data models directly. So it should just make it a little bit easier, as you're working with the actual data models, instead of having to load all of them, which I think it's around 66 MB. So, it's not at the limit of 100, but I think most of the time when we're working with collections, it's going to be like a
Pretty
meg
large.
or two, or pretty small. But
Yeah.
here, this one's fairly large, because it's representing the entire capabilities of the API across all 9 model flavors.
And can you import this that you were mentioning, Bruno? Can I get the same collection, import into Bruno?
Yes, yeah, and we should actually just change this from Postman to Postman/Bruno, or tooling agnostic, whatever. But yeah, it's my understanding that it's the same format that Bruno imports. I'm pretty sure I imported it actually into Bruno, and it worked. I didn't actually exercise any of the APIs through the tool. I just confirmed that the spec loaded and looked good, and went back to basics after that.
Gotcha. All right. Then what else we have here?
Just some stats, right? So as we were working with this, we just saw the pie chart growing as we got to 100% coverage, or as we worked through all the different data models and the variabilities within the data models. There's a couple Yang models that have operational data, that have config data, that have RPCs and events all modeled in one data model, right? So, how do we deal with that? We basically count it a couple of times for each operation or each type of operation that's in there. So just high-level stats about, what's supported, the number of operations, etc. Getting down to the documentation, though, there's kind of one thing that I did want to show in here, which is the module accountability report, right? So this, maybe I didn't cover it. We'll go to the very top. This is for iOS XE 17.18.1 only. I'm not doing yet 17.15 or 17.9 or into the future. I'm not doing any point releases, so 17.18.2, for example. We're just doing the main initial release because typically that covers all of the innovation in the operating system, goes into the .1 release, and then we'll do just kind of minor fixes usually into the .2 or .3. So this is just 17.18.1. It's from GitHub, so it's all models, all product types, right? So we have wireless controllers, we have switches, routers, IoT devices. There's like a voice gateway sort of thingy in there as well. So we worked with every single data model in there. So we had to have a module accountability report, which basically tells us how we sort and organize each of those data models. So if we go into this, it tells us, yep, 850 data models, 400 of those have specifications. And that should be 100% coverage. Says it's 47%, which probably lines up with this number divided by that number. But it does provide 100% accountability for every model and every operation in those models. So we have the accountability by summary. So we can say that for these opera models, there's 200, and all but one of them has a spec. There's one that has no data in it, which we'll see coming down. And same thing as we go through each of the different types of models. Right? One of the bigger problems in this project was just getting the AI to read all the different types of data models and sort them accordingly. Like there's a lot, like these types, these deviations, we don't really care about these, right? But they do influence some of the other models. So we do need to actually go read through them and make sure there's nothing that we need to actually act on in any of them. So that's the category summary. And then we also have the individual model accountability. So as we go through each of the 800 models, right? It actually tells us which category we put this into, and then whether is there a spec or not, and then where we can actually go and find that in the tool. So yeah, we have all 800 models in here. We have understand where they're modeled, and we can go over there and click them and see what's actually been worked against all of these. There's probably some bugs in this. There's probably some that are incorrectly categorized, but for the most part, it should be pretty good. It should be pretty accurate. I haven't found any yet in the as I go through the tool as I'm looking for things. Every now and then I'll find one that just got missed, or there's actually a bug that's preventing it from being loaded. But now I'm have a lot more confidence that every single Yang model has been ran through the PyYang, so we can actually see the tree. And then anyone that does have a PyYang, we also make the Open API spec so that we can go visualize it in the actual correct category.
So the goal here, Jeremy, is to get basically 100% coverage, or maybe the deviations not as much, but everything else. Is that where we want to get to?
Exactly, yeah. And I don't actually have a view of that on this page right now, but it should be 100%. Like anything where there's a tree, there should be a spec. Anywhere there's a spec, it should be available in the category.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then we just do have some summary down here, which is, gives all the numbers again. Again, I wouldn't read too much into these numbers because there's so much variables in here about models that don't have specs and things like that. But for the most part, this should be pretty accurate, saying that, yeah, just the number of models, the versions, and all of this, all the metadata about it. So
looks good. So then, I mean, we have a bit of time, right? Did you want to go and reserve an always-on sandbox for the virtual 9K and just kind of try a couple of curl posts just to
Yeah,
see? You want to
yeah.
like do it live? Let's do it live.
Let's just do it live here. Okay, so how do I get to the DevNet Sandbox? Probably just search it here. Let's log in. Okay, I'm logged in.
And
Go to
this is
launch.
off the cuff, right? We've not. It's just let's
I was
go and show folks how to actually do it.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you
I was
go.
gonna
The cookie.
I was gonna go reserve one before. I just didn't have a chance to before, so we'll do it right now.
Let's
So
do it now.
yeah, this is a browser issue. Hopefully you don't have this problem. I've been having it a lot lately. I need to go in here and clear my cookies out. Let's see, is it gonna let me in with ease here? Getting my phone ready just in case.
Always off the cuff. Jock, so who we have here? Dexter. Thanks, Dexter, for watching this. Hello from North Carolina, from Seoul, South Korea. Joy, thanks for joining us.
I think it's this one, right? Catalyst 9000 Always-On Sandbox.
Yes.
Okay. And we were looking at some of the metrics for this and was quite impressed and surprised by the number of use of these
Yeah, it's one
things.
of the most popular sandboxes for sure. Folks are using this, which makes sense because you get a Catalyst 9000 virtual switch, but for free, right? So you have it running in the DevNet Sandbox whenever you need to try out something, test something like I'm going to show to right now. I found it also super useful. I know folks, like John Capobianco also was showing and using these sandboxes because it's very easy to get access to them, and you have a virtual switch running in the cloud somewhere that you can access at any point. So for demos, for training purposes, is perfect. So it says that it's on.
Okay, so this is
Just
my
gonna
username and this is my
documents
password.
first, yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just putting this on my notepad up here. And should be this. Okay, looks good. Let's go back to this one. This one. All right. So let's go build the actual payload, right? Let's do a opera get. Let's do opera get against interfaces. We'll do it against the high-level container. We'll try it out. I guess I can put my auth actually into here. And where'd my notepad go? Right here. Put my credential in. Okay, so it's got it in there. Let's see if we do a execute. I guess it doesn't actually put my, oh no, it does. Puts it into basic auth. Oh, that's cool. Okay, let's copy this. Let me just put this onto my clipboard. I mean, it looks good to me. So let's move this. Let me move a console window here and paste this. Curl get DevNet Sandbox. It's you need to give it the crypto. Ignore the crypto issue. I had a really hard time, to bypass this. I asked the model or the software engineering team to add the -k-i, and a day later I told it to not, because it just caused so many problems and he couldn't figure it out. So maybe now that we have a Opus 4.6, we'll be able to actually resolve this. So I'm just going to pipe this through less. Okay, great. So we run our curl command up here. We'll get some metadata, and then we actually get the response back saying, yep, here you had the interfaces. It's a gig 0. There's this many packets out on it. Now, if we actually log in to the device, let's go do that.
You would see the exact same.
we should see the exact same thing, right? If we do,
Metrics,
let's just
yeah.
change the host name DevNet demo. Okay, great. If we do a show interface G00, somewhere on here, we should see a number very similar to this, which should be
Octet.
around here, this many bytes, out octets, packets out, 314, 314, right? So this is where we see the out octets actually modeled in the Yang on the left and modeled in the CLI on the right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty easy, right? We can go and get all the interfaces on here. Let's see, which one are we looking at here? There's a lot of data modeled in here. Oh, Fast and Furious is the description, right, of 104, right? So if we go over here, show int G104, do we see the description on here? Nope. Let's do show int
Github
status.
description, Fast and Furious. It's right there
it
under
is.
hardware. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So let's also just double check it in here. Show int status. Oh, someone's been really watching Fast and Furious movies lately, we see here. Cool. So yeah, this is one of the nice things about the DevNet Sandbox, right? You can go in there and you can mess around with it. You can try things, you can break things. You can shut the gig 0, you can change the passwords, all that stuff.
Don't do it though right now. You can
Don't do it
shut
right
down the
now
management interface, but don't do it.
because it'll take 5 minutes before it comes back
Yeah.
up, or a few minutes. But we have the automation in there now that it really keeps this thing rock solid. How long has this been on for, I wonder? Right, a day and 20 hours.
Okay.
Right, so not too long, but long enough that makes it usable.
And then for the config models, Jeremy, let's create like a loopback interface or something.
I mean, we can try. Let's go into native. So here we are in the native model. Let me just make it large here. So across the native config model, I've sorted this into 27 categories, right? So it's probably going to be in IP configuration, right? That's where we're going to have native IP, IP route, access list, DCP domain, etc. Right? But where is actually the interfaces? The interfaces. We have a separate category just for interfaces. Great. Right, so we have our native interface, Ethernet, fast, and gig, right? So let's do the gig first. Now there should be somewhere in here. Oh, it's already modeled for us. So it has gig 101, and it should say, when we get it. Wait, is
Fast
this
and
a get?
Furious 5 or
Yeah,
whatever.
fast. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's try and get this. So how do we actually build this payload? Let's actually go in here. And let's try it out. Let's do the execute. And let's copy this. I'm just going to put this back on my clipboard. Let me move it down here, actually, so you can see what I'm doing. Move it down here. Here's my clipboard. So this is what I copied from the tool. Let's just give it the -k -i. I don't see the authentication in here, so I'm just going to add it. I guess this is a bug, right? That we're supposed to add the authentication in everywhere, as well as one other thing I notice is that sometimes we have a different device populated. We have a example.router.com. So I think that's a couple minor things that we'll take away from this to fix. So if we go back to here, let's paste this. So we're going to do a curl against this device, against native interface gig Ethernet. Okay, so it shows us back all of this, right? Gig 00, don't touch. 101, Fast and the Furious. Cool. So we can use this to model the payload, right? To actually do the change. Let's go into the tool though. Go over here.
So this is just a get. Let's see for like a post.
Okay, let's see put or
Or
patch.
put.
Let's do a delete. That'll be the easier. Let's try to delete first. So we're going to execute. Let's see, does this actually look right? delete gig 0. Well, it's going to delete everything under gig Ethernet,
Yeah.
right? So that's probably not what we want, right? So how do we actually build this? Typically, we'll do the get first, right? And then we can use the model that we get back to actually go in and make the change that we want. In this case, can we try this? Go up here. We got to put this in here somewhere, maybe. I don't know if this is right. I have no idea, to be honest. So we'll just try this. Let's just
Should be the
do.
payload sound like a -D or something, or
Can it give us an example in here? Because that's, I mean, really the idea here is to use this to give us the proper working example. Most of the time I work with just the gets, right? So how do we actually model this? We might have to take it offline and do some work on here to actually work with the inputs, right? Because there should be some inputs in here that allow us to specify, the gig Ethernet interface, whether that's 101 or one or just one.
Mhm.
It's supposed to give us the place to put that in here, but I don't actually see it. Let's see if we have it in put. Nope. No. Okay. Well, I think that's going to be the end of the demo because we'll have
Improvement.
to we'll have to do some work to actually make it correct, where you can give it the inputs.
Was there any like loopback if you look in through here interfaces? We've seen gigabit, right? We've seen. Are
Mm-hmm.
there any interface physical Ethernet? Oh, okay, hold on. Interfaces virtual 18 endpoints.
Yeah, let's
Virtual
see
and
what these
overlay.
are.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Here's your interface
Interface
loopback.
loopback.
Yeah, let's try this. Are there any on there? I guess we'll see. Copy this, put it into here, add my insecure
-A.
options
Yeah.
and the credential. Okay, and now let's run this.
See if there's any loopback interfaces on that.
Oh
There
yeah,
are.
there's a bunch. Yeah, 10, 90 from Ansible, and 100 from PyATS, right? And same thing. If we look in here, show run loopback.
Loopback.
Is that how we do it? Section loopback. Yep, section loopback. So yeah. So here's the, you got some IPs on there. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Yeah, so the gets work pretty good, and that's really was the focus, right? I think probably for phase 2 we'll work on the actual config management portion.
All right. What else we want to show people? We've shown them the gets, reserving the sandbox, super seamless. Within a couple of minutes, you have it up and running. You get your credentials assigned to you for a couple of days.
Yeah, this DevNet Sandbox stuff I think it's pretty powerful. We're doing some work in it to add more devices. I don't know how I get back to the landing page here, but we do have the virtual instances, and I think we just mentioned briefly, like, the number of reservations that we see on these things is quite large, right? Like, was it like 500 a day, something like that, for the virtual Catalyst 9000 and the Catalyst 8000. And then for the physical, we're also seeing like 100 a day. Is that right? Or
Yeah,
was it?
we're seeing them. They're very popular. And then, yes, let's talk a bit about the hardware sandboxes, Jeremy, because we've mentioned this. We've talked about them coming for a while, and now they're finally here. And actually, we're gonna add even more hardware sandboxes in the near future. But for now, we have quite a bit of hardware in there for folks that want to try, app hosting, or they want to get actual metrics on, or if they're testing their code for fan speed, or they're looking at power draw from actual PDUs and actual hardware devices. If you're building something around their sustainability, then you actually have hardware devices that will give you real metrics around that.
Mhm. Yeah, we launched this program maybe a year or two ago. It was a little slow to get started, to get everything physically racked and available in the DMZ co-location facility, and then get the automation to actually make them reservable within the Sandbox ecosystem. So we're there now. It's been running for, I think, a couple months at least. What do we have in here? We have a variety of Cat9Ks, 9200s, 9300L, LM, 9300X. We have some stacks, so you can train against those. And then we have 13 brand new C9350 smart switches. They're in building 13 in San Jose right now. We're going to be unboxing them tomorrow. And then on Friday, we're going to be moving them to the colo. And then sometime after that, then we'll see these 13 C9350 smart switches available in the reservation system that we were just in, right? In addition to all these 92s and 93s, you got the latest and greatest smart switches.
And since we're there, let's do it. Let's reserve one of the 9300s, the hardware ones, because I think they were available.
Let's try it.
There you go. Yeah.
I guess I might need to cancel my existing reservation. Is that how it works?
No, you should be able to do multiple ones. Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
2 hours.
Launch. I thought I tried this and it didn't let me because I already had one, but maybe I had 2 physicals. Yeah. You have the max number of environments. So I need to actually go to this one and say end. Yep. And maybe we should make a change to this, and that if you have a virtual always-on instance, that you can still reserve another one, right? Because there's no actual resources that are being used here. It's just a login to something that we operate 24/7, right?
And it's shared anyway between everyone.
And it's shared anyway, right? So yeah, we should make it not count towards your reservation if we can. Let's see how long it takes to tear down my old instance and then bring up this one. Hopefully this is nice and quick.
So this 9300s, launching in a couple of minutes. Okay. So while that comes online, use cases for this one, right? We're talking briefly about app hosting. What else can we do in here, Jeremy?
Yeah, app hosting was the main feature that we wanted to enable in here, because we understand, you need extra hardware to operate it. You might not have that in your labs, and it's one of those features that we don't see a lot of use, but when we do see the use, it's a very powerful use case where you have like an agent deployed, or you have some observability tools or security tools that are running right there at the edge. Other than app hosting, though, these are physical switches that have stacks. So if you want to train against building and breaking stacks, the other main thing that these provide is, obviously, it's a physical box. So there's physical sensors in it, right? And that's where the temperature, the fan speed, primarily it's the PSU and the power supplies, right? Even now, it's been a couple of years since we saw a lot of interest in power utilization and power monitoring and power savings. It's died down a little bit now, but we still do see quite a lot of customers asking, how do I instrument the power supply? What's the watts, the voltage, what's the utilization of the various power supplies, and how many power supplies can we turn some of those off to save power, kind of those sorts of things. So yeah, all those physical sensors are available.
Right. So like I also briefly mentioned, you're building an app that you need actual operational metrics for fan, for temperature, for power supply, actual utilization. Then an actual hardware device will give you that. And this is really for you to go test your application, test the code, make sure that you're getting the metrics that you need for different versions of the OS too, right?
Yeah, it ships with 17.18, I think is what's in there now. We can go double check.
We'll connect. We're connecting now anyway, so we'll see in a bit.
Let's see. Can we say connect? Hopefully it asked me. I might have to use this other one. Okay, here we go. So this is my user. This is my password. I mean, it looks like it worked.
You're connected, and now if you go under instructions, you should be able to see, or even there, the IP address.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if ping works.
Yeah, try to SSH.
Developer 10.10.20.181, yeah. I don't think I'm connected. It connected kind of too quickly, and usually it gives you that accept. But it says it's connected. Let me just try this other tool here. Not this one, but this one. I have 2 VPN clients for when you need double security. Okay, this looks better. I don't think ping works.
I don't think ping works, but try to SSH.
Yeah, I remember that it was blocked. But
maybe it takes a bit of time to come online, the automation to kick in for this. This says it's online.
Yeah, it says it's on. It should be working, but I don't know. We'll have to call Mike. Well, this is how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to go in here, reserve it, VPN, and then connect into it. Is there any other hosts in here?
I know the Sandbox team has actually, they had a maintenance yesterday. So that might have affected the availability of the Sandbox, but you would be able to SSH into it, right? And then you have an actual hardware Catalyst 9300 available to you, or a stack.
Yeah.
All right, what else did we want to show folks, Jeremy? So Swagger API spec, we've showed them. They'll be able to find it on developer.cisco.com/doc/osxc, and also developer.cisco.com/osxc. There'll be a link there. We're importing pretty much all 800 or so models. They'll be available there. We've seen the operational ones, they work seamless. Some of the config ones need a bit of massaging, at least some of the endpoints that we've looked at, especially on the payload and how you're passing the payload. But that's, I'm sure Opus, what was like 4.6, will figure it out.
Yeah. Yep, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the focus again was on the RPC and the Opera data, the easy ones. The native config is probably the most complex. And then the actual config is probably what I'll start with, right? I'll actually start turning app hosting feature, some of these other features that have dedicated config models, right? Start seeing success with these. And then move that over to the actual native config model, which is the most complex one.
Right. Okay. So that's coming up. Pretty sick, pretty stellar, Jug. Yeah, so Opus, which it's surprising because from 4.5 to 4.6, you wouldn't expect to be such a big jump. This is kind of like a subversion for them. But it seems they've made a breakthrough with 4.6, which I'm glad to hear. Happy to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a black hole to me, kind of like you just, you send one prompt to 4.5 and send another one to 4.6, and you just kind of eyeball it and understand that with 4.6 he did way more research, that he's just way smarter. or that the model's smarter and is able to give you just a better answer. And I've been doing some software engineering work with Ansible, right, to work on a new Ansible plugin. And we did the work with 4.5, and then we just kind of stopped, and we started over fresh with 4.6. And some of the challenges that we had with 4.5, we don't see those at all. They're just taken care of already. So a lot easier to work with.
Definitely. Talking about Ansible, right? We're actually going to get together tomorrow to talk about some extra content involving learning labs, DevNet learning labs, specifically for LSXC, Ansible, and Terraform. So, folks, if you would like a specific use case covered with Ansible modules for LSXC, let us know either in the comments of this video or let us know on your socials, YouTube, on LinkedIn, because we're at the stage where we're deciding what we're going to build from a learning lab perspective for LSXC. So now is the time. If you have any special requests, we have some use cases that we're thinking about, that we're brainstorming. But if you have anything in mind or that you'd like to see or that you'd like us to develop, let us know. Now would be a good time because, like I said, we're in the planning stages of what we're going to build for Ansible and Terraform coming up. We'll have something out, I'm sure, before Cisco Live Las Vegas coming up at the end of May. But it'll be a work in progress. We'll add more content in there.
Yep, lots of Ansible work coming up. We did a big refresh of Yang Suite Learning Labs last year. Right? We went from a couple learning labs just to one for Yang Suite that encompasses all the capabilities and the features and all the knowledge transfers there. So now our intent is to do the same thing with Ansible and Terraform.
So that's coming up. More hardware sandboxes, which will give us like the 9350s, the smart switches coming up, like we were talking about. What else? Learning lab, lots of new content coming up for LSXC, right? So lots of new content, always. So I always know, especially for Cisco Live events, right? Because we're making announcements. I always know that you, Jeremy, and Story, and the team will always have something new coming up at every event. Even sessions, right? You'll have some new sessions. Did you get your sessions approved for Vegas? What's coming up new for Vegas on the session?
We were working on this yesterday, actually. We're doing a 4-hour instructor-led training, ILT, as they're calling it, or a lab. So definitely, if you're planning to attend Cisco Live US in Vegas in May, June, please consider signing up for our lab. We're going to be doing a bunch of hands-on. So 4 hours. We haven't actually started building it, but we've been brainstorming what we want to show, right? And Swagger is one of them. Ansible with ACR, or Atomic Config Replace, which is kind of the newest feature set that we've been working on at a kind of really high level, is the atomic features. So we'll be demonstrating hands-on with that. I do have a session on the virtual switch, the Cat9KB. So we haven't done an update on the features and the capabilities of that thing in maybe a year. So we're going to do just an update on all things virtual switch in CML. What else do we have? There's a new one on SNMP free, right? The story is driving, right? And it's based off what we're seeing from our customers, that the desire is to disable or phase out the use of SNMP for a variety of reasons and migrate to telemetry and Yang data models. So yeah, we have I think it's a 90-minute breakout on how to do that, how to be successful, and some of the gotchas there.
That's a big one because I know lots of folks looking to migrate, from SNMP monitoring to streaming telemetry to kind of the future, which is now. It's now. The future is now.
Yeah, and I think the other, not a session, but just some background work that we're doing to support the telemetry transition is regarding OTEL, or Open Telemetry. So we haven't published anything. We haven't started doing any marketing around it yet. So this is your kind of sneak preview. But we have been hearing from a lot of customers the intent to kind of migrate away from the kind of legacy telegraph or TIG stack that we've been using for a long time, and migrate to open telemetry as the receiver, the collector, the middleware between your telemetry producer, your switch, your router, and your visualization engine, which is either your Splunk or your Grafana or insert whatever tool that you have. So OpenTel is set to be the new middleware that replaces Telegraph. So we've been doing, again, some software engineering work to enable that. So trying to get that published over the next couple of weeks, and so it's ready for Cisco Live.
Nice. Okay. Like I said, lots of stuff coming up. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing with us here. Folks, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. We'll bring Karim Iskander. Karim is coming up, and we'll do some AI demos, some AI workflows, some AI agents. We're going to build with him live. We've touched upon with Jeremy. He didn't want to go in under the hood to actually show us the agents, which is, it's fine. With Karim, we'll take it next level, and I'll actually show and build an AI agent with him on how you would build like an AI agent around your specific use cases. So that's coming up next week. Make sure you tune in, same time, same day. Jeremy, in the meantime, thank you so much for doing this. We'll bring you back whenever we have some new stuff, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Yeah, always happy to be here and show off the new stuff. And I'll be here next week listening and learning from Karim as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for watching. Thanks, Jeremy, again. We'll see you folks on the next one. Take